Hey guys, it's Alexandra from EyeLoveKnots.com. Today I'm going to be showing you how to do the Lightweight Haylee Bauble Ornaments. That is this ornament here that is crocheted in half double crochets. I have three sizes that I'm going to be sharing instructions for. This is the small size. There is a medium size and a large size as well. This design was originally sized to fit styrofoam balls that are 2.4, 2.8, and 3.8 inches in diameter. I'll have that information on the diameter sizes down below. I do get my styrofoam balls from Hobby Lobby, but you can get them from a lot of other places. The small size also works for these small bauble ornaments that you can get from Dollar Tree. They come in a big tube. It's like 6 or 7 ornaments altogether. This one is the solid gold and then the glitter gold, and I got this because I thought it would work nicely with the orange color in case I could see through it. And I also wanted to have the hanger here on these ornaments. If you use the styrofoam ball, then you either have to create your own hanger or use one of those metal ones off the tree, or tie on your own, or you can leave off the hanger and just use it as a filler inside of a bowl or a vase, something like that. So for this pattern, you're going to need some lightweight yarn. This is Hobby Lobby's I Love This Sportweight yarn in the color orange. I am changing up my holiday decor this year and we are adding orange ornaments. So I decided to crochet them. Together with this lightweight number 3 yarn, I'm going to be using a G6 4mm crochet hook. We're going to be working in continuous rounds without joining, so you're going to want to have either a stitch marker or a scrap piece of yarn. These locking stitch markers are really great to use, really handy, but you can also use any scrap yarn that you have, or a safety pin, or even an earring if you have a lever back on it. If you don't want to use a bauble ornament or a styrofoam ball, you can stuff your ornament. Now let's talk about sizing really quick before we jump into the pattern. Gauge is somewhat essential for this. Now we're going to work this very similar to a beanie. We're going to start with a ring of stitches. We're going to increase until we get to the diameter that we need. Then we'll work in rounds and then decrease at the top. So this is going to have a little bit of leeway. It is going to stretch to fit if it's a little bit smaller. It will have less gaps in it if it's a little bit larger, since it won't be stretching to fit. But more or less, I find that the diameter is best if it's right around the same diameter of the ball. So the styrofoam ball sizes that I gave you, 2.4, 2.8, and 3.8, are the diameter sizes of the styrofoam ball. So you're going to want to make the circle around that same size. And like I said, there is a little bit of wiggle room, so if it comes out a little bit smaller or a little bit larger, it's perfectly fine. If it comes out quite a bit smaller or quite a bit larger, then you're going to want to go ahead and change your hook size and rework it. Otherwise, it's not going to fit correctly. The only time this isn't going to matter is if you're using stuffing instead of a bauble ornament or a styrofoam ball. So I'm going to provide you some diameter sizes in this pattern so you can check against the circle that you're working. So you want to have a soft tape measure on hand so you can check that. If you're stuffing your ornament, then you don't need to check your gauge, you can just continue going. If you're using a styrofoam ball or a bauble ornament, you'll want to go ahead and check to make sure that you're close so that it will fit correctly. If you're using a different size ornament or styrofoam ball than what I'm using and you want to custom make a piece for it, you'll just want to do your circle in a very similar manner, increasing until you get around the size of the diameter. The diameter is not the whole entire measurement around your ornament, that is the circumference. So if you are working to a different size, you can go ahead and measure all the way around, then take that number and divide it by pi, which is 3.14. That's going to give you the diameter of your ornament or your ball, and that's going to be the size that you're working up to. You're going to find the written pattern for this linked in the description box below. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with a slip knot, so I've pulled the yarn over my fingers here, wrap it around my index finger 2 times, hold the tension with my thumb and my middle finger, pull the loop on the left up and over the other one, but not off my finger. Now pull the one on the left up, over the other one, and off my finger. Take my crochet hook, insert it into the loop on my finger and pull it off. Hold the working yarn in my right hand and short tail in my left. I'm going to pull that so this goes to normal tension. We're going to start with a chain that we're going to slip stitch join to form a ring. If you prefer working the magic ring, you can do that. To chain, we're going to yarn over and pull through the loop on our hook. Yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook. Yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook. So it's going to give us these V shapes here, and each one of these V shapes is a chain 1, 2, 3. If you're working the medium size, you're going to work 4, so you'll add just 1 more. And if you're doing the small or the large size, you're going to do 5, so we'll add 1 more on top of that. You don't count the loop that's on your hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you're either going to have 4 for the medium or 5 for the other 2. Now we're going to hold the tension of the loop on the hook, go down to that very first chain that we made, insert our hook right into the center of it, yarn over, pull through that stitch and through the loop that's on your hook. That is a slip stitch join, and we've now formed a ring that we're going to work our first round into. And we're working into the center there, not at the top where we slip stitched. That's going to have a hole that's going to open up a little bit as you work because that knot is not secured yet, but we're going to be working into that larger center hole. We're going to start with a chain 1. This chain 1 does not count as a stitch. As we work this round, we're going to hold the tail end to the back of the chains and crochet over them both. We're going to be working half double crochets. To half double crochet, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook right into the center ring there. As you do that, you're going to have the chains on your hook and the tail end as well. And you're going to hold that tail end up against the chains, yarn over, pull through. You have 3 loops on your hook right now. Yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. That completes our first half double crochet. Hold that tail end against the back of the chains, yarn over, insert your hook into the center ring. You have the chains and the tail end on your hook. Yarn over, pull through, 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Yarn over, insert your hook into the center ring with the chains and the tail end on your hook. Yarn over, pull through, 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So right now we have 3 half double crochets. Each one of those V shapes you see there on the right side is a stitch. 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to continue working half double crochets into the ring. If you're working the small size, you're going to have 12 half double crochets in total. If you're working the medium, you're going to have 11 half double crochets, and if you're working the large, you're going to have 10 half double crochets. Once you get to the end, we're going to be working a continuous join, so we're not going to be slip stitching, and we're going to do this so that we don't have a seam on our ornaments. If you want to slip stitch join your rounds, you absolutely can and start with a chain 1, but you're going to have a seam, so I'm trying to avoid that seam. First thing you're going to want to do is double check that you have the correct number of stitches. You can look to the last stitch you just worked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I have 10 half double crochets. That's what I wanted for this one. You're going to have either 12, 11, or 10. And we have that center hole and that tail end there. If we hold on the back side, on either side of the fabric that we have with the tail end coming out of the middle, we can pull that tail end and that ring will close up, and we will completely close it and secure it once we weave in our end in a couple rounds. To get us to the height of the next round, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the center ring, yarn over and pull through. We have 3 loops on our hook. Then we're going to insert our hook into the very first half double crochet, picking up both loops of that stitch, yarn over and pull through. We have 4 loops on our hook, and now we're going to yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. And this is going to count as the first half double crochet of the second round, and it's also going to put us in position where we can work the next round. If you have stitch markers, you'll place your stitch marker into this very first stitch, and this will let you know once you make it all the way around where the beginning is. When you're working in continuous rounds, you don't have that stop and start of the join and the chain, so it's really easy to lose your place. These are locking stitch markers. If you don't have a stitch marker, you can use a scrap piece of yarn, or you can use your tail end until you weave it in. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this loop up so I don't lose it. Insert my hook into that first stitch, the one I just finished making, from the right side to the wrong side, which is the front to the back. Yarn over with that tail end and pull it through. And now you'll know when you get to that tail end, that's going to be your first stitch. You're going to want to make sure that you keep track of your stitches so you know when you're going to finish your round and begin the next one. We're going to be increasing so we can make this circle larger, but we want it to continue to lay flat for now. So we're going to be working 2 half double crochets into each stitch for this round. This one that we just finished counts as our first half double crochet. So now we're going to work 1 more half double crochet into the same exact stitch here. Yarn over, insert your hook into that same stitch, the one that you finished working the second part of that decrease in, and complete your half double crochet. So now we have 2 half double crochets there, and that's going to count as 1 stitch. We're going to continue working 2 half double crochets into each stitch all the way around. So in that very next stitch there, I'll work my first half double crochet. And for the second one, I'm going to yarn over and insert right back into the same stitch. And that gives me 2 half double crochets into that stitch. And you're going to continue working 2 half double crochets into each stitch all the way around until you're back to the beginning where that tail end is. Your last stitch is going to finish just to the right of either your stitch marker or your tail end. Here I am at the last stitch. I'm going to work my last 2 half double crochets in there, and the very next stitch has that chain, and the very next stitch has that tail end coming out of where you would have your stitch marker there, so you know that that's the beginning of the round. In this round, you're going to have twice as many stitches as you started with, so that's either going to be 24 for the small size, 22 for the medium size, or 20 for the large size. And again, you can count backwards if you want, or you can count from where your stitch marker is and just double check that you have the correct number of stitches here. For round 3, we're going to take our marker out first. So if you have a locking marker in place of that strand right there, you'll just remove it and set it to the side. If you have a strand, then you're going to go to the back and pull it out. We're going to set our new marker in the next stitch, which is going to be the first stitch of round 3. We're going to start with 1 half double crochet into the next stitch. Then I'm going to pull up a loop so I don't lose it, and I'm going to put my marker back in there. So if you're using this locking stitch marker, you'll just put it back in there and close it up. If you're using your tail end, you can insert right into that stitch you just finished making, yarn over with the tail end, and pull it all the way through. Then I'll insert back into that stitch. And now my marker has moved up to the beginning of round 3. I'm going to go ahead and work another half double crochet into this very same stitch. So we have 2 half double crochets in there. Then I'm going to work 1 half double crochet into the next stitch. Then the repeat is 2 half double crochets into the very next stitch. 1 half double crochet into the next stitch. Repeat again, 2 half double crochets into the next stitch. 1 half double crochet into the next stitch. And you're going to continue with that repeat all the way around until you get to the last stitch before your marker, and that's just going to be 1 half double crochet in there. Once you get to this point, you're going to have 36 half double crochets for the small size, 33 half double crochets for the medium size, and then 30 half double crochets for the large size. And here I've made it to the end of round 3. I have just one more stitch that's left before my stitch marker there in the first stitch. So I'll go ahead and work my last half double crochet. And round 3 is now complete. If you're making the small size, this is where you're going to stop increasing. This is as large as we want it to be to fit our styrofoam ball. So you're going to want to take a soft tape measure. You're going to want to lay this down and measure from the edge of the left side directly across the center to the edge of the right side. And you're going to want this to measure anywhere from 2 1/4 inches to 2 3/8 inches. There's a little wiggle room here, but you don't want it to be too much smaller or too much larger than that, or it's not going to fit your styrofoam ball the correct way. So if it's too much smaller, then you'll want to go ahead and rework your sample with a larger hook, and if it's too much larger, you'll want to rework your sample with a smaller hook. Then continue on to the next round. I'm going to go ahead and continue increasing here for the next 2 sizes. So if you want to jump forward in the video, you can use the timestamp in the description box below. Click on the one for the next round and it will jump you forward. Continuing on here to increase, we're going to start by working 1 half double crochet into the next stitch, which is where our marker's coming out of. So if you have the locking marker or you're using the tail end, go ahead and pull it out. Work 1 half double crochet into that next stitch, pull up a loop, place in your locking stitch marker, so we know that's the very first stitch of the round, or insert your hook into that stitch and pull your tail end through. Then I'll put my hook back here into this loop, and now I want to continue increasing here. I'm going to work 1 more half double crochet into that same exact stitch, so I now have 2 half double crochets into the first stitch, and my marker is in that very first stitch of round 4. Then we're going to half double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, and our repeat begins here. 2 half double crochets into the next stitch, and 1 half double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. So we have a set of 4 stitches here. The repeat again, 2 half double crochets into the next stitch, half double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. 2 half double crochets into the next stitch, 1 half double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. And we're going to go ahead and continue working that repeat all the way around until you get to the last stitch that's just before your stitch marker. You'll end there with 1 half double crochet from that set of half double crochet into each of those last 2 stitches. And if you're working the medium size, you're going to finish with 44 half double crochets. If you're working the large size, you're going to finish with 40 half double crochets. I've made it around here. I have 1 more half double crochet to work here into the last stitch that's just before my stitch marker. And now round 4 is complete. This is where we're going to stop increasing for the medium size. So if you're working that size, you'll want to set this down. Take a soft tape measure, measure from the edge of the left side directly across the center to the edge of the right side. And to fit a 2.8-inch styrofoam ball, you're going to want this to measure about 2 3/4 inches. If you're measuring smaller than that, you'll rework your sample with a larger hook, and if you're measuring larger than that, you'll rework your sample with a smaller hook. There is a little bit of wiggle room there, as this does stretch to fit just like a beanie, but we don't want it to be too much smaller or too much larger. Now, if you're working the medium size, you can jump forward in the video by scrolling down to the description box below. Click on the timestamp for the next round and it will jump you forward. We're going to be weaving in that tail end. But if you're making the large size, we're going to go ahead and continue increasing one more time here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out my stitch marker. If you were using the locking stitch marker, you'll just pull it out. Make 1 half double crochet into that next stitch. This is going to be the very first stitch of round 5. Pull up a loop, go back into that first stitch and replace my stitch marker. Alright, now we're going to work 1 more half double crochet into this very first stitch, so we have 2 half double crochets. And then we're going to work a half double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. And our repeat begins here, 2 half double crochets into the next stitch, half double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. The repeat again, 2 half double crochets into the very next stitch, half double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches, 2 half double crochets into the next stitch, half double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. Continue working all the way around until you get to the last stitch, which will be here to the right of that stitch marker. And you're going to finish with 50 half double crochets. Here I am at the end of the round. I'll work my last half double crochet, and now round 5 is complete. We have 1 more round to work for this large size. I'm going to pull up this loop, remove my stitch marker, place my hook, work the first half double crochet into the next stitch, pull up a loop, and replace my stitch marker. This is now the first stitch of round 6. I'm going to work 1 more half double crochet into this first stitch so that we now have 2 half double crochets in there. And then I'll work a half double crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. And our repeat begins here, 2 half double crochets into the next stitch, half double crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. The repeat again, 2 half double crochets into the next stitch, half double crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. 2 half double crochets into the next stitch, half double crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. Continue working all the way around until you finish with your last stitch just to the right of the stitch marker from the first stitch of the round, And you'll finish here with 60 half double crochets. I made it to the end of the round here. I have one more half double crochet to work into the last stitch just to the right of my stitch marker. I'm going to pull up a loop here. This is the end of our increasing for the large size. Lay this down, take your soft tape measure, measure from the edge of the left side directly across the center to the edge of the right side. To fit a 3.8 inch styrofoam ball, you're going to want this to measure about 4 inches. There is some wiggle room here, so it can measure a little bit smaller or a little bit larger, and it will still fit your styrofoam ball comfortably, but you don't want it to be too much smaller or too much larger. If it is too much smaller, then you'll go ahead and rework your sample with a larger crochet hook, and if it is too much larger, you'll go ahead and rework it with a smaller crochet hook. Before we jump into the next round, we're going to go ahead and weave in that initial tail end. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it out, flip to the back. I'm going to thread that into my tapestry needle. This is the best time to weave this in as it's the easiest to get to. I'm going to work clockwise underneath those stitches from round 1 until I get back to the beginning, and I'll just do it in some small sections here. This puts me back to the beginning. I'm going to actually continue working a couple more stitches here, and when I come out, I'm going to break that stitch in half. I like to hold the fabric in between my fingers here. Now give this strand a tug, not too hard as you can tear your thread. You just want to close up that ring. See, that hole is now closed. And now we're just going to secure that in place. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate this back so I can work back in the same direction I just came from. And I want to talk about breaking the stitch in half first. So I'm going to come over here for the example. I don't pick up the whole stitch on my needle as I enter and exit my stitches. Instead, I do it in the center of the stitch, breaking it in half, and that's just going to help capture my yarn better. I do this when I enter and when I exit, so I'm going to insert into a nearby stitch here, break that stitch in half, and then I'm going to run vertically here through several of the stitches I just finished working. Break the last stitch in half when I exit, hold the fabric in between my fingers, pull it through, give it a tug, and if it's bunched up too much, use my fingers to manipulate the fabric so it lays naturally. I like to do 3 passes, so that's my second one. I'll rotate it here, insert it into a nearby stitch, break that in half, run vertically through the same stitches I just finished, and break the last stitch in half when I exit. Then I'll hold the fabric in between my fingers, pull it through, give it a tug, manipulate the fabric if I need to. If it's bunched up too much, we want it to lay naturally. Now I do 3 passes, that's what I feel the most comfortable with, but if you feel comfortable after 2, you can fasten off. If you feel like you need a 4th one, maybe it's slippery or it feels loose, go ahead and work it. It's whatever you feel the most secure with your end. And I'll go ahead and fasten this off. And now we're ready to jump into the next round of the ornament. For the next round, and each round after that, before we start decreasing, all the rounds in the center, we're going to work them exactly the same as this next round. And that's going to be half double crocheting around. I'm going to keep my stitch marker close, or you can use a scrap piece of yarn. I'm going to go ahead and work my first half double crochet into this next stitch, and then I'm going to pull up a loop here. So if you're using a locking stitch marker, you'll just place it in your first stitch and close it. If you're using a waste piece of yarn, I just do the same thing as we did before, insert my hook in there and pull it through. That marks the first stitch. That's going to make it so much easier to work all the way around without having to think about counting or if I have enough stitches. So I've already worked my first stitch there, and it's as simple as continuing to half double crochet into each stitch all the way around the entire thing. So once you finish this round, you're going to have your last stitch here into the stitch just to the right of your stitch marker, and that will complete this next round. And then you're going to continue doing the same thing. So after we make it to this last stitch here and we complete this next round, then we're going to remove our stitch marker, work a half double crochet into that next stitch, replace our stitch marker into that next stitch above it, and then half double crochet into each stitch all the way around. So the middle here is really easy, just half double crochet into each stitch all the way around. It's important though that you continue to move your stitch marker with each round that you do so you don't lose your place. As you work here, you're going to notice that this is going to start to cup. It's going to start making a bowl shape, and that's exactly what we want because we're no longer increasing here. So we want it to build up the sides of the ornament. And then once we get to the number of rounds that we need in total, we're going to go ahead and start decreasing so we can close it up. To count these rows, I'm going to go to the center ring here, and I want the stitch marker to be directly above me. That's where my first stitch is, where I just started this next round. So I'm going to go to the center ring. That's round 1. Directly above it, round 2, round 3, round 4, round 5, and round 6. Where I've put the stitch marker, that begins round 7. So just to the right of the stitch marker is the end of round 6. Go to the center ring, count directly up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the right of the stitch marker, and 7 starts to the left. I'll go ahead and put up a chart now that shows how many rounds you'll want to have depending on the size that you're working. Now that we have the middle part of the ornament done, we can go ahead and add in our ornament inside, or styrofoam ball, whatever you're using with your cover here that you're creating. I'm going to be using this ornament that I bought at Dollar Tree in a big bundle because I wanted to have this hanger, but you could also use a styrofoam ball. So I'm going to flip it inside out so that the wrong side or the inside is facing out. Then I grab my ornament or a styrofoam ball, whatever you're using, and place the center bottom of it over the center of the cover you're creating. Then use the fingers of your other hand to stretch and pull the cover over your ball. And now we're going to close up the top by working some decreases around this ball. With this ornament that I have, it's really shiny and smooth, so you might not even need to do it that way. You might be able to just pop it right in. But with a styrofoam ball, if you've taken it out of the wrapping, then you need to do it this way. Otherwise, the crochet fabric sticks to it. It's really hard to manipulate over that. So I just turn it inside out, put it in the center, and pull and stretch over. Now we're going to start decreasing here. It's going to be a little bit different depending on the size that you're working, as you have more or less to go. So I'm going to first show you how to work a half double crochet decrease. Then we'll jump into the instructions for the large size first and work on the other sizes as we get down in our stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this ornament out just so you can see my decrease a little bit better. But we're going to be working it over top of that, so I'll put it back in a moment. There's a couple different ways that you can work a decrease. My original pattern, I did half double crochet 2 together. I think for this one I'm going to do an invisible decrease, but I want to show you both options, and these are only 2 of the options. For decreasing, You can pick whichever works best for you. I think here at the top section, the invisible one works a little bit better so you don't have any gaps in there as you go through, but the half double crochet 2 together also works great. You'll just want to keep it a little bit tighter. So first let's do a half double crochet 2 stitches together. Yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through. You have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through. 5 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 5 loops. That is going to be a half double crochet 2 stitches together. Let me take that out so we can work it again. Yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through. 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through. 5 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 5 loops. That turns 2 stitches into 1 stitch. So that's option number 1. Let me take this out. Option number 2 is called an invisible decrease. To do an invisible half double crochet decrease, we're going to yarn over. I'm going to hold the tension here with my index finger. We're going to go into that next stitch there, but instead of inserting into the whole entire stitch to pick up both loops of that V shape, we're just going to insert in there, move towards the top center, picking up just the front loop only on our hook. Then I'm going to hold the tension with my index finger. I'm going to rotate my hook around so I can come up from underneath the next stitch. And again, instead of inserting into the whole entire stitch, picking up both loops of the V shape, I'm just going to insert in there, moving towards the top center, picking up just that front loop only on my hook. Now I'm going to yarn over, pull through those first 2 loops only, leaving 3 loops on my hook. Then I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. This also turns 2 stitches into 1, and the stitch that we create looks a lot more like the other half double crochets. It's a lot less bulky than the traditional half double crochet 2 together, and I think that it's better for covering up the gaps. Let me show you that one more time. I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into the next stitch, but only picking up the front loop only. So we're inserting as if to insert into the whole entire stitch, but instead of picking up both loops, we're just going to work our way through the top center to pick up just the front loop only on our hook. And we're working from underneath it instead of through the top like we normally do. There are 3 loops on my hook. I'm going to hold the tension. I'm going to rotate my hook around so I can come from underneath the next stitch and as if to insert as normal, except I'm going to just work to the top center, picking up just the front loop only on my hook. Yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops only, 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So you can choose which way you'd like to work your decreases. I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. Let's go into the pattern now. We're going to start with the next round for the large size. If you're working the medium or the small size and you want to jump ahead in the video, just go down to the description box, scroll down to the bottom where the timestamp is, and click on the link. It will jump you forward in the video. I'm going to go ahead and put my ball back in here. You can wait until after you complete this next round before you add it in, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it now. It's a little bit fiddly here at the end as we work over the ball, but just work slowly and have patience and it will work out wonderfully. I did think that going into this I wanted to do the invisible decrease, thinking that it would help with the gaps here at the top, but it's a little bit more fiddly than I am interested in. So I'm just going to go with the tried and true half double crochet 2 together, but you can use whichever method is the best for you. For the first round of the large size, we're going to start out by doing a half double crochet decrease over the first 2 stitches. And then we're going to half double crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. Then the repeat begins here, half double crochet 2 stitches together, or do the invisible join here, and then half double crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. Half double crochet, decrease over the next 2 stitches, half double crochet into each of the next 4 stitches, and continue working all the way around until you're back to the beginning. You still want to have your stitch marker handy so you can mark that first stitch, although it's a little bit easier to differentiate now as you can see where your decrease is. At the end of this round, you're going to finish with 50 half double crochets. Once you've made it all the way back around, you completed your last stitch and you now have 50 half double crochets. The next round for the large size, we're going to work our decrease over these first 2 stitches. I'm going to half double crochet 2 stitches together here. And again, you can use whichever method you prefer. Then we're going to half double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. Then half double crochet 2 stitches together, decrease over these 2 stitches, half double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. And you're going to continue all the way around following this repeat of decrease over the next 2 stitches, half double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches, all the way around, and at the end of this round you're going to finish with 40 half double crochets. For the next round of the large size, as well as the next round of the medium size, they're going to be worked the same way. We're going to start with a decrease over these first 2 stitches, whichever method you prefer. I'm doing a half double crochet 2 together. Then you're going to half double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. The repeat now, half double crochet 2 stitches together, or decrease over 2 stitches. And then half double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. Decrease over the next 2 stitches, half double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, all the way around. For the next round, it's going to be the same for all 3 sizes. We're going to start with a decrease over the first 2 stitches. I'm doing a half double crochet 2 together, and then half double crochet into the next stitch. Half double crochet, decrease over the next 2 stitches, and then half double crochet into the next stitch. And continue in pattern, half double crochet decrease over the next 2 stitches, half double crochet into the next stitch, all the way around. Once you get to the end of this round, you're going to have 24 half double crochets for the small size, 22 half double crochets for the medium size, and 20 half double crochets for the large size. For this next round, we're going to half double crochet decrease all the way around. I'm doing mine in half double crochet 2 together, so I'm going to go ahead and do that over these next 2 stitches. And then we continue to decrease over the next 2 stitches, and then decrease over the next 2 stitches as well. And this is our repeat all the way around. At the end of this round, for the small size, you're going to have 12 half double crochets. For the medium size, you'll have 11 half double crochets, and for the large size, you're going to have 10 half double crochets. This next round, I'm going to skip as I'm working with a ornament that has this hanger, and I don't really need that extra space in there. I'm going to just go ahead and close it up around. You could also close up around a styrofoam ball as well. But if you're working with a styrofoam ball, you may want to add this next round just so it gives you a little bit extra height in there so that your fabric isn't stretching quite as much to cover up that gap. Completely up to you. For the small and the large size, you're going to half double crochet, decrease over the next 2 stitches, and then half double crochet, decrease all the way around. You will finish this round with either 6 half double crochets for the small or 5 half double crochets for the large. For the medium size, since we have an uneven number here, you're going to work 1 half double crochet into the next stitch, and then begin half double crochet, decrease over the next 2 stitches, half double crochet, decrease over the next 2 stitches all the way around, and you'll finish this round with 6 half double crochets as well. So again, if I'm using a styrofoam ball, then I would work this additional round. Because I'm using a bauble ornament that has this hanger here, I'm going to go ahead and just finish off here. I am going to go ahead and fasten off with a tail end a little bit longer than normal, just because I'm going to weave it in around here. If you're working over a styrofoam ball and you're going to add a hanger, you're going to want to fasten off with a long tail because you're going to use this tail to work the hanger. So you're going to want a tail long enough that you can close this up and then pull up a loop and work your chain to make a hanger. Completely up to you, because you could also tie on a different hanger or use a metal hanger that you use on some of your other ornaments, or you could even use this as a decorative ball, as a filler for a basket. You do not have to put a hanger on this if you're working with a styrofoam ball or even stuffing inside. I'm going to go ahead and pull up on this loop to break it. And then I'm going to thread this into my tapestry needle. To close up this hole, we're going to bring our needle from the right side into the next stitch. Wrap it around that stitch, coming out just to the stitch to the left, and pull through. Over the bar of the next stitch, insert your needle into the next stitch, wrap it around the back, and bring it out the next stitch. Pull through, over the next bar, into the next stitch, wrap it around the back, and bring it out the next stitch to the left. And we're going to continue weaving our needle around into the stitches all the way until we're back to the beginning. This brings me back to the beginning. Now you can hold your fabric, give it a tug, and it's going to close that up. It's either going to close it all the way, or it's going to just close it up around your hanger, depending if you're using a styrofoam ball or if you're using a bauble ornament that has a hanger. Now we just need to secure it in place. So I'm just going to go ahead and weave in my ends. When I do it, I do the same way as I did my initial tail end. I break the first stitch in half when I enter, run it through several stitches, and then break my last stitch in half when I exit. Break my first stitch in half, run it through several of the same stitches, break my last stitch in half when I exit. That's my second pass. I like to do 3. Now, I'm not going to show how to do the hanger, but if you were going to add a hanger because you were using a styrofoam ball or you were stuffing it, you're going to want to have your tail end coming out near the center here. Then you would take your crochet hook, insert it into that stitch, yarn over with that tail end, pull it through. You see how we have a loop on the hook. Then proceed to chain with this tail end. For the small size, you'll want to have 10 chains, and for the medium and large size, you're going to want to have 15. If you want to hang it directly from the tree and not from a different hanger, then you may want to chain an extra 10 so that you have a lot of leeway there. Once you finish your chain, you have a chain over here, you just come directly across from where your yarn is coming out of the other side where you started your chain. Insert into the same round of stitches and complete a slip stitch. Then you'll pull your yarn through and weave in the rest of the way. This is how I normally do mine, but this year I decided I didn't want to add a hanger. I just wanted to do it around bauble ornaments that had hangers on them because I really like the look of this and how easy it is to hang, and the chain sometimes stretches out from use, so this is never going to stretch out and it's just going to look lovely. So this is what I'm going with this year, but you can of course do the chain hanger instead. Now that I've weaved this in all the way, I'm going to go ahead and fasten off. And now my ornament is ready to go. And I'm going to be making a ton of these so I can put them on my tree. Guys, thanks so much for watching my video. You'll find the written pattern for it linked in the description box below. Leave me a comment letting me know, are you using a bauble ornament that has a hanger? Or are you using a styrofoam ball and adding a hanger? Or are you just covering a styrofoam ball and then going to use it as a filler for a basket or a centerpiece or something like that? I would love to know how you're going to do it, so drop me a line below. Please smash that like button and hit subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.